If you want to do serious data engineering today, the industry says there is exactly one way to do it: buy a petabyte-scale cloud warehouse. Companies default to these massive platforms because they assume every single data workload they run is going to demand maximum warehouse-level compute power. But there's a dirty secret most people in business intelligence don't talk about. By the time your raw data actually reaches an end user, it has already been filtered, normalized, and heavily reduced down to a fraction of its original size. This is what we call last-mile analytics. When someone in your company asks a question, they aren't scanning the entire raw database. They're querying a highly readable table of refined data, and this makes up the vast majority of daily business intelligence workflows. Building a daily workflow around massive compute engines creates a massive mismatch, using heavy industrial machinery for incredibly lightweight tasks. In the tech world, we call this over-provisioning. You end up paying for a constant, massive server capacity that you rarely max out, which quietly drains your cloud budget month after month. This chart shows the financial consequence perfectly. Your daily data processing requirements stay relatively flat, but your cloud compute costs rise sharply because you're paying overhead for a system designed for much heavier lifting. It is the digital equivalent of renting an enormous empty factory floor, turning on all the industrial ovens, and baking a single loaf of bread. This bloated infrastructure wastes money, but worse, it forces data engineers out of their creative flow. Instead of actually analyzing data, you spend your day navigating clunky UI menus and dealing with administrative friction. MotherDuck was built to solve exactly this problem. Their entire philosophy is based on a surprisingly counterintuitive idea: making big data feel small. Instead of relying on a complex cloud cluster, MotherDuck runs on DuckDB, an engine designed for local in-memory processing. They use a duckling architecture, an isolated, right-sized node that instantly expands and contracts, giving you exactly the compute you need in that moment. Eliminating the time it takes to spin up giant remote servers removes the main bottleneck in daily analysis. You write the query, and it executes immediately. That speed extends to data ingestion too. Say you want to scan an Iceberg lakehouse, essentially a vast storage bucket of data files. Traditional cloud warehouses require multi-step, complex imports to even look at it. With MotherDuck, you can query it instantly. Or if you have a local JSON file, you don't need to configure storage buckets or worry about strict formatting rules. You just run a single SQL query and the data is loaded. Once that data is in, legacy platforms usually make you write a second, separate query just to figure out the shape of what you imported. MotherDuck takes a different approach. The platform automatically visualizes your data the exact moment it's loaded, giving you immediate context. The column headers in your data table automatically generate miniature histograms, distribution curves, and trend lines right above the numbers. These built-in summaries give you an immediate feel for the distribution of your data. Often, they answer your core business question before you even have to write your next line of code. Anyone who writes SQL knows the frustration of hitting a syntax error. Normally, a typo forces you to break your workflow, leave the platform, and go hunt through documentation for a fix. MotherDuck includes an AI auto feature that catches those syntax errors on the fly. It reads the broken query, suggests the exact code fix in line, and lets you run it with one click. They handle collaboration the same way. Instead of navigating labyrinthine permission menus to grant access, you can collapse complex tables and workspaces into a single URL. You send that link to a colleague, and it instantly clones the data into their own isolated workspace. Removing error friction and permission roadblocks refocuses the tool on human flow, treating machine compute as a background utility. When you combine this frictionless workflow with MotherDuck's right-sized compute wall, you end up drastically undercutting legacy cloud pricing. This side-by-side comparison illustrates the financial shift. Because you only pay for the exact compute you use, daily workloads often run for literal fractions of a cent per compute hour, keeping monthly bills incredibly low. Most data tools feel sterile and mechanical, but MotherDuck adopts a playful, approachable branding that uses duck motifs and a slick interface to lower the psychological barrier to complex engineering. It makes the platform feel like a curated environment rather than a hostile command line. Modern data engineering is becoming less about managing raw server scale and more about the agility of the person behind the keyboard. bragging rights for the biggest warehouse are disappearing. Success now belongs to the most elegant platform for the data you actually use.